What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? I am your co-host, King Ralph, here with the homie Kai.
Kai,
And you are
what's
now
up?
watching Juke Boy Sports Show. We got the drip. Shout out to my boy Ian for the drip.
always,
Uh,
always, man. Looks fresh over
I'm,
there,
I'm
bro.
I am not gang related, but I look real whooped out. Whoopty whoop whoop whoopty whoop.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, how you doing, bro?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking as always, man. I hope you're doing good as well. I had a really good weekend, playoffs are finally started. So, I'm already excited about that. And NFL draft is about a week away, man. So
Yeah,
I'm just biting at the bit as I'm sure you are to see who our teams draft. So other than that, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So
I'm doing good, man. It was a good
yeah.
weekend. Um, if you all don't notice, we're on a new day.
Hmm.
Schedules changed, so we slid. You gotta be versatile. You gotta slide, get in your stance and slide.
Yeah.
But I wish my Bulls would have slid and played some more defense.
Oh
Um,
Lord, here we go.
but
That
it
must
hurt. It
suck,
hurt
bro.
watching them lose.
I feel you.
But shout out to the homie Luis. He hit me up after the game. Cause I'm sorry we had to send y'all home. But
Mm.
we're gonna get into it in a little bit before we get into the NBA playoffs in a little bit. Before we get everything jumping, just want to send a little PSA out. Make sure you check on your friends. Over the weekend, I found out one of my good close homegirls, her brother committed suicide, and so check on your
Mm.
people. Make sure they're doing well. Check on their mental health. Ask them and genuinely care to listen to what they got to say. And yeah, but before we get started, send a shout out to the sponsors. If you want to do any podcasts like what you're watching, music videos, photo shoots, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. And we got a lot of playoff basketball to get into. First off,
Mm.
Milwaukee Bucks versus
Mhm.
the Heat. Giannis
Yeah.
goes down with a back contusion, doesn't play the rest of the game. Heat get the victory. Jimmy
Yeah.
Butler trolling. You think the Heat gonna finish it out? Do you know the
Um.
status of Giannis's injury?
Right. It's one of those things where the injury status is obviously non-conclusive with Giannis, so it's up in the air, and we know that Giannis is the biggest part of what the Milwaukee Bucks essentially do, right? But when I look at the Milwaukee Bucks and I look at the matchup, if we look at the team as whole, Ralph, I had the Bucks winning that series respectively. To all due respect to the Miami Heat in 5 games. A lot of it kind of predicates both based on obviously some of the things that they had at some of the advantageous matchups they had last year had they played, because I had them on a collision course last year. It just didn't happen because of Mills' injury. They still stand today. It's the size advantage, Ralph. You're looking at a front court where you can have Giannis as your help defender at your four. You have Brooke Lopez, who last season he missed about a quarter of the season, right, due to back surgery, and so they desperately needed him this year. He's not missing the season, and he came in second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. So he's had a resurgence there. You have Bobby Portis, about 6'10". So you have a really tall lineup, right? You can do a lot of shadow coverage, controlling the boards, rebounding, and we saw that the Miami Heat really struggled versus Atlanta Hawks, in their size with Clint Capella, with
Yeah,
Jalen Johnson, I believe, and then there was the other guy, the shot blocker off the bench. So when you put all that uh, on the table, you look at the 3-point shooting of the Milwaukee Bucks. You look at Drew Holiday. You look at the return of Chris Middleton, who wasn't there last year. I saw that the Bucks with the home court advantage. I thought that they would be able to win this series in about 5 games. Miami did take a game one, but if you look at historically, it seems like the Bucks usually come out a little sluggish, Ralph. So I think that the
yeah.
Bucks can still win the series ultimately, but I think it's going to be a little more of a dog fight to win the series. I think it'll be a more closer series. So we just have to wait, like you said, on the status with Giannis.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, man. I think that is one of those things you can't really make a call on that
Yeah,
because I don't think when Giannis is good and healthy, I don't think it's close.
yeah,
I applaud Jimmy for having the fighter's mentality and just going out there trying to hoop and give it everything he got. But I don't think that they have a shot without if with Giannis when Giannis is good and healthy. So I think this injury and the status of this injury is really going to tell you how far this team can go. I do think the Bucks can still make it a series without Giannis,
Mhm.
but we will see. You never know. Giannis,
Yeah,
that
never know.
injury in the finals, we thought Giannis would be out for the finals with that injury,
Yeah, he
which is
came back on some
came back.
vibranium.
Yeah, right. So next up, we got the Celtics and the Hawks. Man, this series here, I think it's not close. It's they finna send them boys home. The Celtics finna get them out of there. I think Trey, when he's on,
Mhm.
and having a Dejounte Murray, the length on the court, I think they could get one game.
Right.
But I'd be surprised if it goes any further than a gentleman's sweep. I
Yeah,
just think
I
that
agree. I
I think
agree.
the Celtics are too deep, too good,
Mhm.
um, and I think they're on a mission to get back to the finals. So I think that Hawks don't stand a chance. Gentlemen's sweep.
Yep. I pretty much agree on that. And I'll add one little caveat because I think with the playoffs, I really look into these things because these things they somewhat can matter. I don't say they're definitive. They somewhat can matter. I also look at the city that you're playing in, and I kind of feel I call it like a Jalen Rose type take, but you have to kind of put it give it some consideration. Being in Atlanta, right? And the things that are prevalent or that you can get into in Atlanta, cities like Miami, and possibly players staying up late or stuff like that, and seeing how that could kind of affect some players' play in this series. I always think when you hear those types of narratives or stories, they kind of make me kind of chuckle a little bit. But there could be some type of what's that word effect on the players. So they might come out a little sluggish. Hey, I was at the club, or who knows? You know what I'm saying, Ralph?
Right.
So maybe they could steal a game or something like that because Boston comes out, a little sluggish. But I think what you said, having people on their bench that's too deep, and yeah, man, some of these people on their bench, Ralph, they're not even playing them. So because they blow them out. Maybe that's the only time you see them. So I agree. I'm not gonna, you
And
know.
then next up, 76ers and Nets. This is another one of those ones
Your
where
boy, Embiid.
it shouldn't even be close.
Mhm.
Jacques Vaughn got them boys playing hard.
Yeah.
They're playing hard for what was it? They play hard for 40 minutes.
Right.
40
Right.
got to play hard for 48 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like they're gonna play hard. I think that Cam and Mikhail are showing that they're more than just the roles that they played with the Suns.
Mhm.
Now, am I going to come out and say, "Oh, they're stars in the making"? Like I don't know. I think Mikhail Bridges had a lot more in his tank
Mhm.
as far as leading a team or being a second or third option on a team. Where I think Cam, he's so not one dimensional, but he's an offensive guy. Where
Right,
he's
right.
going to play hard on defense, but he's not going to stop. He's he's not really going to lock you up. Where I think Mikhail has that type of talent, but I think that James, Maxey, and Embiid are just going to be too good, too much, and they might get a game in Brooklyn just for the sake
Mhm.
of it being in Brooklyn and that type of crowd with that type of energy and that type of team.
Yeah.
But gentlemen sweep,
Yeah. No,
if not
I
if not just an OG sweep.
right. I agree with you, and I want to kind of preface my comments like when we talk about gentlemen sweep. Another reason why we say that is because we both me and you, we recognize and understand these are NBA players and NBA teams, and it's very hard to beat a team 4 times in a row. You know,
True,
because you
true.
have to give them that respect. That's why we always give them the respect of a game, unless there's just a definitive gap, like it's KD's Warriors. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Like
right,
they literally swept all the teams up until I think when KD went down versus Kawhi and all them.
right.
So yeah, I agree. I have no more analysis on that one.
And then I'll let you take the lead on this one. We got number
Oh,
4 Cavs versus number 5 Knicks. Who you got?
so I had the Cavs. I like the Cavs. I had the Cavs. I think initially I had them in 7, and then I think I moved it down to 6. But for the most part, I'm gonna say the Cavs in 7 for that series. What I like about the Cavs is their front court line. You have Evan Mobley. Mobley is mobile. There you go. So he's mobile. You have Jared Allen, 6'10", but he kind of plays bigger than his size, I think. A very good shot blocker. You have Devin Mitchell. But then on the Knicks, Coach Tibbs has them playing hard, and they out physicaled them. I believe JB Bickerstaff pretty much said that they came and they punched them in their mouth. I'm not sure if that was the exact quote, but that's pretty much what the Knicks did. They kind of functioned as a boxer in game one. And game two, we saw a plus in bench scoring, a plus in defense, in all the defensive metrics of that game, right? So I think that they were able to contain Jalen Brunson a little bit better. We saw Julius Randle. We got to check on his status. My only thing with the Knicks, and you might agree with me on this, is because you know him as being the coach of your team, the Chicago Bulls, right? People always say he would run his players into the ground. We would hear things like that, or the narrative that he would run his players into the ground, or you're up 30. Why is Julius Randle playing in a 30-point blowout? I didn't understand it, Ralph.
Yeah,
I don't condone it. Reggie Miller was talking about it. So it's those little nuances that I look at and I'm like, come on, Tibbs, you know, it's a physical series already. Why are you gonna put your
right, right,
Jay Randall, you know, who came in with a sprained ankle. Now
right,
he has a hurt back allegedly, or a tail.
right,
Who knows what's going on? We don't know how bad it may or may not be.
right,
You know, so I got the Cavs. I just think the Cavs have the best player out of everyone at the end of the series on the
right.
court. And I'll end it with this, and I'll swing it back to you. I like what Rondo said. Rajon Rondo, shout out to Rajon Rondo. He said, look at Karis LeVert. He feels like Karis LeVert could be an X factor in the series, and he was going last night. So I like the Cavs to win this series. So
And I
there
agree
you go.
with you, man. I think but it's definitely going to be one of those things where you can. I'm intrigued by this matchup
Mm.
because last night, out of 6 games that the Cavs and Knicks have played this year, you would think one team would have the rebound advantage because they're the taller, longer team.
It's not the case.
But
Yeah.
but that's not the case. The Knicks, out
Mhm.
of five out of 6 games, have out rebounded the Cavs until last night.
Yeah.
So that is something to pay attention to, which rebound is going to keep you in a lot of games if you're able to get a lot of rebounds.
Yeah.
While also Garland and Levert being much more aggressive in game two versus game one. Now we got to see how well they play going to New York, where that Madison Square Garden is gonna go. They gonna go crazy. And can the Cavs handle it? Can Donovan Mitchell lead lead the troops pretty much?
Yeah, and they always say rebounding is an effort stat, right? So
Exactly.
like we look at a guy like I'll just use an example. Ended with this is a player who's retired, a Hall of Famer, Dennis Rodman, right? Dennis Rodman, he wasn't the best athlete, but he gave maximum effort on every single play, and he led the league in rebounding how many times? So it's an effort stat as well, right? So there you go.
And Nuggets, T
Ooh.
Wolves.
Yes, yes,
This is
yes.
another one of those ones where like I just don't. I don't think the T Wolves are there. I think
Mhm.
I think with certain injuries that happened toward the end of the year, while also just being a year away
Yeah.
from being a much better team, I think that Cat has showed his worth and it showed his potential, but
Mhm.
he's not there yet. And so I
Right.
think there it's just Jokic, Murray, and the boys is just going to be too much. And this is one of those ones where like I just don't see it really going that far. That gentleman sweep, OG sweep.
Yeah. I look at the series, and this is for everyone out there. My pick for the NBA Finals to represent the NBA Finals is the Denver Nuggets. I feel like they've been disrespected all year round, and for being consistent when everyone else has been inconsistent. With all due respect, if we're being honest. That being said, when I looked at this matchup, one thing with this matchup, if you want to find any maybe silver lining, would be the play of Carl Anthony Towns. He's a guy who didn't play in their previous matchups in the regular season, so I looked at it because I wanted to predict a sweep initially, and then I looked at it and I said, let me see in game one, you know, how Carl Anthony Towns affects the game, how he comes out, and you know, the Denver Nuggets, they pretty much handle business. But there's a couple of little guys that I want people to be cognizant of when we talk about the defense. I think those are questions that some people had. with the Denver Nuggets. They actually were quietly, I believe, top 10 in defense, like middle of the season at one point. Yes, they did tail off everyone near the end of the season. And I heard, I think it was Stephen A. Smith had mentioned this on TV at one point, and I was like, well, with all due respect, he must not really watch the Nuggets because we got to think about it. They clinched the number one seed early, right? And Phil Jackson, shout out to Phil Jackson, he once said, "You're a championship team if you win 40 before you lose 20." And so the Denver Nuggets, they did that. They got home court. They have the advantage of the altitude there. And when you clinch it, they're like, we're not going to injure our players. They sat out five starters versus the Phoenix Suns. Remember, Ralph, right? So KD didn't get a chance to play them, and he said that he wanted to kind of take away something from the game. And he's like, well, we didn't play the five starters, right?
Right.
So I look at this series, Ralph, to what you were saying, as I think they're coming out and like, okay, now the postseason has started. So now we can just kind of run through. You know what I'm saying? And I'll end it with this. The guy I want you guys to look out for is the rookie, Christian Braun. You guys might remember him. I believe he played at Kansas. Christian Braun, athletic little guy guard. And he actually is a pretty solid defender out there on the court. He's a bench player though. But look at Christian Braun. We talk about Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon, and KCP, but Christian Braun is someone that I think could make a difference going forward in the playoffs. So that's what I got.
Next up, Grizzlies Lakers. Ja is out
Yep.
for game two with his I think he hurt his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um the one thing though is I think this is a game that the Grizzlies can get
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they have showed that they can still win games without Ja.
Yeah.
And I think that Tyus Jones coming in, he's a good, legit, solid point guard. He's not going to do too much, not going to do two leads. He's not going to turn over the ball, but he's not going to score 30 points. He's just going to run the ship and get the
Mm.
ball to people that were in the best spot that they can attack. It just is going to come down to can Jaren Jackson match AD and what he is doing and the output that he's doing. So I think that this is one of the ones. This is when you do your Skip Bayless. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Speak
and
your mind, man. Speak your
but
mind. It's
but
cool.
at the same time, it's like
Yeah.
my gut tells me I want to take the Grizzlies, but at the same
Okay.
time,
Okay. Mhm.
it's an uphill battle because of how well the Lakers have been playing
Right.
since the trade.
Okay. Yeah, I look at it like this, and I don't say this disrespectfully, and I think you'll understand where I'm coming from, right? I feel like, and I'm say this to the Grizzlies. I'm not trying to disrespect the Grizzlies, um, but I did have the Lakers winning this series. But when I look at their pathway, because me and you we talk about their pathway, and I'm sure the media talks about their pathway. Yes, they are a a dark horse to be a conference finals team or even a NBA finals team. Shout out to Rob Pelinka. They put the right pieces around LeBron James in place, right? And then they got, I think, a considerably favorable matchups because matchups matter in the playoffs in a 7 game series. So you play Minnesota in the play-in, a young, immature team, players punching each other. You know what I'm saying? And they
Right.
got through them, right? Then you get Memphis Grizzlies who talk a lot. They have some immaturity issues, and then you have Steven Adams who is out, right? Brandon Clark who is out. So your front line is deficient outside of old boy, you said Jaren Jackson Jr. Shout out to him though for winning the Defensive Player of the Year award. Definitely shout out to him. He definitely deserved it. But he can get into foul trouble, right?
Exactly.
So I think that just being able to get a chance to play some immature teams early as kind of warm ups really will help them until you run into a team who is more experienced. But you have guys like Austin Reeves who came through. You have a guy in Rui Humachimera. So when you start looking at the landscape of their bench, I really like their bench pieces, Ralph, in this series. I like LeBron's ability to slow down the pace of the series, post up. He needs to stop jacking up threes early
Yeah.
in the game. I don't know what that is. At first, I'm like, either you toying with them or you really think you can hit the three. But I didn't have them winning game one. I thought LeBron was going to play possum the entire series, and they're going to win in six. So I'm saying I was actually shocked they won game one after he played 45 minutes in the play-in, and they're playing up against a team that likes to get run up and down the court. But now with Ja's hand injury, I still had it going 6, but I'm like, if they finish him off early, I would not be surprised. It's just how healthy the Lakers can stay. But I do have the Lakers winning the series, respectfully.
And then next
So
up, this was one of those ones where we differed.
yeah, you let you go off on that one.
I picked the Kings over the
Mhm.
Warriors.
Looking good. Looking
Draymond
good.
will be out for Game 3, and so I think I'm still going to give the Warriors some credit and give them 6, 5 or 6. I think that
Okay.
right now, I think they're just too strong willed. That once you go back to Chase
Right.
Arena, like it's a whole nother ball game. And so I think that they have the skill set to get a game or two. I don't think it goes that far though. Especially they just haven't been able to handle a Sabonis. So I think
Mhm.
if Sabonis plays with this chest contusion he got, then I just don't think that they're definitely going to take Game 3, and I think the Warriors will get Game 4. But once it goes back to Sacramento, it's a wrap.
So I look at the series and and I don't like to pat ourselves on the back, but I think we both gave the Kings respect, and I say that because I feel like a lot of people didn't give the Kings respect, right? Even the books didn't give the Kings respect. I said I understood in some respects for the fact that not giving disrespect, but I understood odds in some respect for the fact that they hadn't been in the playoffs since I was 14 years old, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's crazy, man. Like, but at the same time, like you picked them to win the series. I picked them to win 3 games in this series. I had the Warriors in 7. So I'm like, they're gonna push the Warriors to the brink. I like, you know, but the Warriors are they're not on the road when they play the Kings necessarily because they're only an hour away. But you're
True.
right. They don't have an answer to Sabonis. Draymond Green, they show his on court and off court impact. So had Draymond been playing, and they played in Chase Center, I think the Warriors have a chance. And the games have been pretty close.
Right.
Excuse me. And Andrew Wiggins has actually played relatively well. He's still getting into a rhythm. He's still getting into a flow. But I'm like, Wiggins has to give you something. But
Yeah.
I think ultimately, Ralph, I kind of want to go out on the limb. I'm kind of going on the limb. I think the Kings kind of have these guys.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're at the point where, yeah, whole Kings win the series. But I think they might be able to sweep them. And here's why. The the Warriors have the best record at Chase Center, right? But the Kings have the best road record in the
Right.
West. And that does matter because we have to look at things that cancel out. Now you have the team with the best road record in the West without Draymond Green's impact on the court. So it's like they're not a team that's backing down. If anything, they're getting more confident. So this is a must win for the Warriors. I think if the Warriors lose this game, they can't win game 4. I think it's over. I think that the Kings would actually finish them on their court because they know how to win on the road. And so at what point do we take teams for what they show us that they are?
Right.
The Warriors showed us all season that they're not a road team.
Right.
So I think that the Kings really do have a chance to sweep them because Mike Brown just knows what's coming. I think the only saving grace is if Jonathan Kuminga, who's younger, more athletic, faster, who's going to be filling in for Draymond Green, as I suppose. I think if he could give them a spark and Steph Curry has to play at a Steph Curry legendary Hall of Fame level that we know that he can play at, if he can do those 2 things, I think they can get a win. But if they don't, they're getting swept. That's just my personal opinion. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
And then for the sake of time, we took too long, so we're not going to be able to
Oh man.
cover the Suns and
Okay.
Clippers. But
Okay.
next up, we got the tight ends, man. We're breaking down the tight ends, continuing our breakdowns position by position leading up to the draft, man. And so I got it listed as top 5 tight ends, but just give me some tight ends that you like
All right. Cool.
that you want to talk about.
All
Because
right.
I
So
really only got 3 that I'm a
yeah.
big fan of,
Yeah.
and then it's a drop off after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
Anyone whose last name is Kincaid is usually special. I don't know why, but but yeah, I put down some notes on here about his sharp route running ability. He has kind of some wide. He's like a wide receiver slash tight end body, kind of guy. Can run crisp routes. He has consistent hands, and I said that he only had 2 career drops on 109 catchable targets at Utah. Think about that, right?
Right.
Some areas of concern I would probably say are his run blocking. And so a lot of tight ends now, hey, you got to be able to block. And then the other guy that I have Luca Musgrave because of his athletic profile. I think he has the physical tools um to really, get away from backs. He has good size, good acceleration. And I said he has sticky hands, 6'6", 250, 250 pounds. So he has like those webs, of hands or whatever. So I like his size, frame, athleticism, but really Dalton Kincaid and Luca Musgrave for the sake of time are really the only two tight ends that I personally really want to talk about. You know,
I'm actually a really big fan of Darnell Washington, the 6'7" tight end
okay,
out of Georgia. And if you
Cobb monkey.
remember
Yep.
watching the Georgia Ohio State game, he went out with an injury,
Mhm.
and that was when the offense kind of struggled a little bit. And I think that he's a big target with he's a above average run blocker at 6'7", almost 270.
Mm.
With that type of size and athleticism, you can even there's people that have tried that have moved to left tackle who started off as tight end. So it's like that's
Yeah.
the type of size that he has, but he has the ability to make plays after the catch in the passing game. And another person that I'm a huge fan of, and I think at some point we got to have a conversation of Notre Dame and the tight ends
Mm.
that they produce
That's true.
because through history, even 10 to 15, 20 years, there's been a plethora of tight ends that have been productive, came out with a high ceiling, high hype, a lot of hype coming out behind them. And I think Michael Meyer, coming from Notre Dame, 6'4", 250, good athleticism, good soft hands, and I think he has this. It's this. I like his ability to run block. I think the versatility. I think that Kincaid is one of those people that you can put him in a spot where he's going to be a Travis Kelsey type.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, I think when you play the tight end position, depending on where he goes, and I think a lot of this goes to scheme, fit, and all of that, where I think Michael Myers is one of those people that you can put him and he has that versatility where I like versatility.
Yeah.
And
And that's
so
huge in the NFL today.
exactly. You got to be able to be put in different positions. Can you run block as a tight end, while also can you move the chains and make plays in the passing game?
Okay.
And so with that time, let's move to where we really want to be at and what we
Ooh.
really want to talk about. These wide receivers, man.
Right receivers.
And so I'm gonna let you go
You
first.
okay. So we're going from 5 to number 1. All
Yeah,
right. So you know what? I was really thinking about this, and I was like, top 5, or do I go with someone who's like a sleeper, who I think has potential to do a couple different things, man? And you know what? I just feel, Ralph, nothing against the small people, but if we're being real, there's a lot of small wide receivers in this draft, right? Right? You would say that?
yeah,
Um, this guy's actually he's technically listed at my height though, so he's not even small. They say he's like 6'1", a buck 75, a buck 80. So technically he's not small, but I don't think he's 6'1". That's the thing. So I'm actually gonna not put him. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong person. I'm looking at the other person. Anyway, I don't even know why I put him down as my eighth. I'm gonna roll with someone who's not going to be a day one, if that's okay. Um, I'm gonna go with Rasheed Rice. I'm sorry, I have to. Number 5, yes, I'm going there. Everyone, Rasheed Rice is number 5. Initially, I thought Josh Downs when I was looking at the tape, but at some point, I got kind of bored of his tape. I'm not
yeah,
lying. I kind of got bored of his tape. I'm like, yes, he can make contested catches. He's small, cool. I'm like, I don't see him. His ceiling is not high to me.
right,
Rasheed Rice out of SMU, the dude, big receiver. I think he's like 6'4", 6'3". His height's been fluctuating. He's like 200 something pounds. He has some route running. Doesn't have the best of separation, but he can use his frame and box out people, and he high points the ball. He actually does things on tape, Ralph, that Quentin Johnson should do.
right,
Just saying. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? Right.
right.
Hey, Quentin Johnson, if you watching this video, All love, my brother. All love, my brother, man. If you become a Raven, all love. But I'm like, so yeah. But for the second time, I'm gonna just tell people, look at Rasheed Rice. Then I'm really gonna get into my notes and stuff like that. The last receiver, the most recent receiver I looked at was Jordan Addison, right? He transferred, so he went from I think it was it UCLA to USC, or I forgot where he was at
He
before.
went from Pitt.
Thank you. He was the Fred Blitnikoff Award winner, right?
Right.
Too. Yeah. 6'1", 175. I have him down as a fluid route runner, explosive first step, quick feet off the line. He has an advanced route tree, and he even has enough vertical speed to beat people deep. He only recorded 2 drops last year. He has a natural feel for the scramble drill, which is big, especially if especially in today's league, right? Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, right? And we're not talking about necessarily scrambling quarterbacks, but I bring up scramble drill because quarterbacks, when they get flushed in the pocket, right?
Right.
So the ability to come back to the ball, he actually can do some of those things. And I said he can take his size at times, bigger corners may be able to take advantage of his frame. So that's why I have him at number 4. I don't have him in my top 3, but I think Jordan Addison is kind of an underrated wide receiver. All right, go off, man.
And so I actually have Jordan Addison as like my second wide receiver.
Oh, really?
But
Okay. So you
I've
have him
just
as a
been a big
sleeper.
fan of his from what he did at Pitt to what he was able to do this past year. And I think
Okay. Yeah.
it shows you how good he was because,
Mm.
like you said, he only had 2 drops this year. Now, if you go and look at his past 2 seasons, in the past 2 seasons previous to that
Yep.
combined, he had 21 drops.
He improved.
So and he won the Fred Blitnikoff Award with 21 drops. So that either tells you wide receivers weren't that good, or that's how good
Right.
he was, and the numbers
Right.
that he was able to produce, while also being able to improve and show that he can do it
Right.
against better talent. And so I had him at 2, but to start at my 5, this is my person that I said I have him above a player that plays at the same school as him, and everybody's talking about him now. But Cedric
Ooh.
Tillman, wide
Okay.
receiver out of Tennessee, I
Yeah.
have him over Hyatt.
Hi. Yeah.
And I think that with him, you got to look at and pay. And this is where we start to talk about like getting backgrounds on players and watching film and understanding why things happen the way that they happened. He dealt with an ankle injury all season. So if
Mm.
you look at his 2022 tape, he doesn't really pop off. It's really he's playing through a lot of injury, which shows you his toughness to be able to play through that type of injury. But if you go and you look at his 2021 tape, in the 2 games against Georgia and Alabama, he put up 17 receptions, 352 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6'3", 215, runs a 4.5, big
Mm.
hands. He's a play. He's a football focused monster, crazy athleticism and big hands. And you know how we talk about people that catch with hands.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of body catchers in this draft. So I think that the being a big target, where we talk about Quentin Johnson being a big target, and he's bigger than Quentin Johnson, while also being able to do a lot of things that Quentin Johnson can do. And
Yeah.
so with him, he's going to be in that second to third round range because of his 2022 season. And can he bounce back from that ankle injury?
Yeah.
And so next up, I got Quentin Johnson, 6'2",
Okay.
like I said, 6'2", 208, decent speed, good playmaker, played on a TCU team that went far. So he showed that he could play well in big games. Um, but also, you alluded to it, there's certain things that you would think he should do. And when you look at his tape,
Mm-hmm.
there are some flaws. And that's where I kind of have why I have him lower than some of the people that I would have had, where some people have him higher on certain lists.
Okay. Yeah, I have no problem with him there either. Like we said, this is just our both our opinions. And actually, when you say that, it's like I have him lower than what I see. Like PFF, I think has him like number 1 and all that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
have him lower than him. I lower than them and some other people. I just don't believe he's a top 3. But then again, we also think about it like you're saying, like when you go to a team with good wide receiver coaches, all those concerns, if they work on them, then you're like, oh snap, now we see you at your ceiling. So we're just predicting, I guess, these receivers based off of what they are now. You know what I'm saying? So I think for him, he's anywhere between like 4 or 5, maybe 6 at the lowest, and then as high as 3 on for my personal opinion.
Yeah,
So yeah, but for the sake of time, yeah, I got Quinn Johnson, number 3, 6'2". I got some cool stats for you, Ralph. I saw that he was 6th in the miss tackle rate.
right.
um, he has elusiveness to make defenders miss, has straight line speed. He only had a 35% contested catch rate, which is not good. And so what you see on tape, right, is he doesn't box out his defenders and attack the ball in the air aggressively. It's crazy, bro. Like he'll be running and then like the safety will come and then he just like lets up and doesn't
Right.
like. I'm like, what? So when you see that, it's like, nah, bro, if you're not playing to your size, and I'm like, what? And then also he's a limited route tree. 192 attempts came from 5 routes: post, go, slant, curl, deep cross. That's 88% of his production. And then in against coverage in at the line, if it's a hard breaking route, or like let's say it's like a hitch and he has to come back or something, he'll start running and then he leans, he gets up straight, he leans back. So therefore he telegraphs the route to
Yeah,
the DB, and the DB can just automatically reach their hand and swipe down. It's like, oh, you're just coming back to the football.
right, right.
So you see those things. So I see what like Steven Smith was saying about, I look at him sometimes I'm like, wow, and then other times I'm like, I don't know, right?
Right.
But he didn't really expand on that. So I had to kind of find more intel on him. So I got him at number 3. And then number 2, because we're on number 2, right? Yeah. So number
Yes.
2, I have your boy, JSN, not CSN, College Southern Nevada people. JSN, Ohio State, 6'1", 200 pounds. I'm gonna let Ralph really cook on him because that's his boy, man. You know what I'm saying? But this dude catches everything. He may be like a Julian Edelman. I haven't heard anyone give him that comparison, but he's kind of like a Julian Edelman to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, 6 drops on 112 targets, man. 9 contested catches on 10 contested targets in 2021. Uh, he doesn't have great speed though. If you look at a lot of his tape, he catches. He does get caught from behind at times, which bothers the hell out of me. But he does everything else right, and he has good balance. So I have JSN at number 2. All right, go off, man.
And JSN is somebody I have at 1.
Okay, okay.
I think that his size
Mm-hmm.
um, is why I would give him, while also being able to be versatile to
Mm.
everything that who I would assume your 1 is. Your 1 is
Mm-hmm.
my 2, and my 2,
Yeah, I knew it. I knew
yeah.
it.
And so
I
I
was like,
think
oh,
that Zay Flowers being a
mhm.
smaller, short arms
Yeah,
type of wide receiver, but he has the speed to take the top off the defense while also being able
yeah.
where you're not really going to catch him from behind. And so I think JSN, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba has the versatility to do all of that, take jet sweeps, run every route, great hands,
Yeah.
contested catches. But I think that size is why I would put him at 1. He still
100%.
has the shiftiness that Zay Flowers has. He just doesn't have that top end speed, and that's the reason why I would take Jackson
Okay.
over Zay Flowers. But at the same time, I don't really see why you wouldn't have Zay Flowers in the top 3,
Yeah.
top 5, unless you just want to penalize him for being a smaller receiver.
That's discrimination, man. So
And that's the
yeah.
only thing is like, but we don't have a lot of time left, so I got to
Yeah.
move on. But
All right.
that's definitely the
One,
the
two.
the cream of the crop for me.
One. Oh yeah. Same for me, man. Same for me. So we can move on. And that's the case. I got Zay number 1, baby. You know.
Yeah. And so AFC South needs, man. We got them Indianapolis Colts.
Boo.
Uh,
Let me stop.
I
Let me
think
stop.
they definitely need a quarter. They definitely
Yeah.
need a quarterback. I think they have pieces at wide receiver. They have a Jonathan Taylor. They have a good defense. It's just that quarterback position. They turn the ball over too much. not able to make enough plays when it really matters. You can stack the box to a certain degree and just dare them to throw the football. So being able to find someone that will be able to lead that charge, we'll see if they trade for a Lamar or do they stay pat and decide to draft a CJ Stroud or something along those lines. Um, but it's quarterback is that spot for me.
Yeah.
Who
It's
you
it's the
got?
same. It's the same for me. Quarterback. The Lamar Jackson thing, as you lamented. Quarterback. Possibly Anthony Richardson could go there. You have Shane Steichen. So yeah, look at quarterback and maybe a potentially a DB.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that one too. But when it picks that high, gotta be
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah. Quarterback.
Or
Yeah.
or you trade back.
Right. Unless someone jumps in. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Texans up next, man. Who you got to taking?
Everything. They could go anywhere, man, but I got them
That-
going quarterback.
those are facts. There's
Yeah.
literally like you can
Yeah.
literally go in any direction. They need
Just
everything.
hey, just make the Miko Ryans happy, man. You know what I'm saying? Draft him a Hall of Famer. Draft him Bijan Robinson, something. But I got him drafting a quarterback though as their number one priority. But they pretty much need everything there. You know, but
That's true.
they have Derek Stingley there. You know, build on that defense, but at least get a franchise player. Yeah.
And from what I remember, don't they have two picks in like the top 15 or something like
Yes.
that?
Yes, they do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then so we got the Jaguars. When I look at this Jaguars team, man, I think they have a lot of talent on offense. I think that you showed that ETN along with Trevor Lawrence finally showed his worth.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Ingram at the tight end position showed what we've been waiting on him to show this whole time. The emergent signing of a Christian Kirk was good for the team. We looked at that contract and was like, what the heck? But now the offense looks good. So I think you got to shore up that defense, and I think that with the defense you could go. The defense was solid, and so I think I'm not sure where they are and where they fall as far as like on in the draft. I got to look, try to see if I can find it real quick. If they have the draft picks, draft capital, and where they fall. Let's look and see where we got them at. Oh,
Oh, you
so
said the Jaguars?
I had them at 24, taking Cam Smith,
Okay.
and
DB?
so I think getting help in that area is exactly where I would put them at. Getting some DB help, regardless of where you get it at.
Okay, I like that. I like that. And then we have the Titans as the last one.
Yeah,
So for the Titans, they also need everything, but I'm gonna go potentially quarterback. But I want to give Malik Willis a chance. But I wish that if they were going to do that, get him a veteran, not named Tannehill. If you're going to get rid of Tannehill, maybe bring in another veteran receiver, maybe a Cam Newton, bring in
right,
somebody as well. But they need to really to figure out that quarterback position, Ralph. I always say a team without a quarterback has no team, right?
right,
So, and then the other piece I have is wide receiver position. I actually have JSN in my mock draft going to the Tennessee Titans. I think he fits there really well as a slot role. You know, y'all already saw what happened with the whole Woods, situation. So I think if you can put in a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba with Tennessee, I think that he fits and functions very well with the Tennessee Titans.
and I can agree with that, man. I think to a certain degree that works, and as well as like the with Taylor Lewan
Yeah, yeah.
going out of
Also, yeah,
there,
they
I
got rid
think,
of him. Yeah.
and what they got the 11th pick, so I think at that point
Hmm.
you could get you a wide receiver or a tackle. Paris Johnson could possibly be there. Peter Skoronsky is another one that's a versatile lineman where you could slide him from tackle all the way in and put him inside as a guard.
Hmm.
And so I think that those would be the two things that I would probably say the most. I want Malik to get at least give him a chance
Right.
at some point because we talked about him being possibly the best quarterback last year to now just because he didn't play so well. Not a lot of quarterbacks step in day one and play well. So I think get
Right.
him another year training camp, let him be the starter, and move on and move forward with him and give him a legit opportunity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then Miles Garrett, man, this is gonna be a little funny to me. He's dislocates his toe in a Pro Bowl event,
Right.
the obstacle course. He went to jump over a wall, hit his toe on the wall, dislocated his toe. Says
Mhm.
he's still having issues when it comes to pushing off and his
Yeah.
explosion. So he has officially retired from Pro Bowl and Pro Bowl activities. Do you see where he's coming from?
No, I don't. I'm just being realistic because I believe that the Pro Bowl that they say they set everything up. They go through an event as big as the Pro Bowl, Ralph. And we've been at big events or different events, I'm sure in life or whatever. Anything as big as a Pro Bowl, they're gonna vet that, like crazy, making sure everything is safe for the players and all that. So if you mistime your jump or you hit yourself or you and infer any type of injury, it's not necessarily their fault
Right.
per se at that particular juncture in the manner that he's speaking of, it sounds like. So I don't really agree. It's just a personal preference. If you don't want to go to the Pro Bowl, fine. I mean, some people aren't watching it, but they're getting it better though. And it's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it going to be out here again for next year? Because I know we have the Super Bowl out in Vegas, right? In 2024. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing the Pro Bowl may be out here. But yeah, I don't, I'm not going to bash him or anything like that. But I'm not really like retire from the Pro Bowl. All right,
Yeah.
cool, man.
Being dramatic, bro. You're being
Yeah.
dramatic. First off,
Yeah.
just think about how big this gentleman is.
Right. And he doesn't he have a high vertical anyway for
Yeah.
his size?
Six
So I'm like,
six five.
right.
Bro's like 280. And you see, if you haven't, go YouTube him doing box jumps.
Right. He has a 60-inch vertical or something. So how did you hurt yourself? But
Right. It's like, bro, you're too big and jump too high and move too fast. And you hurt you stubbed your big toe? Like
personal
oh
problem.
for real, for real. And so moving on, we got some quick hitters, man. We got a good amount of time to get some good quality content out the way. Angel Reese gets a new NIL deal, partnering up with Canes, among some others. She was already going after the backlash and all of this. Shout out to Tony Yayo. She is already the highest paid college basketball player as we speak. We'll see what happens with Bronny and the rest of the boys get to college. But she's the highest paid college basketball player as we speak. Does this set the precedent that women and female athletes can sell?
Yes, I believe it does. I'm gonna give you first. I'll preface with this because I always like to give people like information so they're confused. NIL. People probably hear what's the word NIL? NIL. So NIL for people that don't know, name, image, and likeness. So pretty much with the deal or contract, it's pretty much the amount of money that you can get based off of your name, image, and likeness, right? So shout out to Angel Reese. I think the number, Ralph, if you have it in front of you, is like 1.3 million.
1.3. Yes.
So yeah, okay, 1.3 million. So yeah, I believe it can set the precedent because I believe in evolution and everything moving forward and athletes getting paid more, and they've been kind of hitting the hardwood about this situation. But I think we saw with the Aces, we saw with their success, we saw a lot of different things now that the game, I think it's going to ultimately grow. It has to grow at some point. The college game grew, and now you're seeing people making money. They talk about how you can stay another year. I think she even has another year for COVID eligibility, just like Aaliyah Boston had she decided to stay. Ultimately, she was the number one draft pick, but she came out and said that she believes this is going to have a direct effect toward WNBA salaries eventually rising.
Yes.
So I believe that it will. I hope it does for their sake as well, because they put their bodies at risk as well, and they have to go through a grind as well. And there was one more thing. Yeah. And so yeah, she got some like really cool like different like things, raising canes, the whole nine, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I do agree. I think it's going to ultimately turn into something bigger. Also, shout out to that one girl. I don't know if you saw her. I forgot his name, but she had like this cool 2-hand dunk that's been going viral.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
That was legit. That was legit too.
I didn't see Shorty's name. I feel bad for not having a name, but I did see that video, and that's crazy. I think the evolution of the dunk being added to the game, while also the trash talk and the being boisterous and not to say loud because I hate to because that sounds so bad, but like being loud,
Competitiveness.
outspoken, competitive, and,
Yeah.
and I like that. I like that being brash, being brash. I rock with it. Shout out to and then next up we got Gilbert Arenas was
Mhm.
on the I Am Athlete podcast. They asked him some questions, and then it came about where we had the conversation of where he ranked amongst point guards. And Brandon Marshall tried to be like, "Oh, take numbers out of it." And so the conversation he led the conversation with, if you stop his people's career at 25, which is where his injury happened and his career changed for the worst, you would put him. There's only certain athletes and NBA players that can be in that conversation
Yeah.
of what he had and what he was able to do by the age of 25.
Mhm.
3 All-Stars, 3 All-NBAs,
Mhm.
leading his team to the playoffs and being a top 10, top 15 player. I
Most
argue
improved.
top 10.
Yeah, most improved too.
Most improved. There's only certain players by the age of 25 that can be in this conversation. So he
Yeah.
specifically said Steph. So do you agree with his comparison?
Um, I'll put it like this. They're still to me. They're still two completely different players. But I believe that Gilbert Arenas needs respect put on his name, and I'm not just saying
True.
this as I'm gonna say it straight up. Like Gilbert Arenas was legit my favorite player. Like Kobe, my all time favorite player.
Right.
But growing up in Maryland, living in Baltimore, living in Columbia, living in Howard County, being 30 minutes away from DC, watching on Verizon Files, watching like all their games. Gilbert Arenas was like that guy. So I actually was one of those guys when you're a fan of an underrated player, you yearn for recognition, right, of that player.
Right.
He pretty much Brandon asked him, he's like, yeah, so what you saying? Where are you at? If you listen closely, Gilbert's really saying where he's at, but without telling you where he's at. He's like, I'm
Right.
I'm, I'm the guy, bro. He's like,
Right.
I'm the best. But then you look at the class of point guards. So if we go through the list, Ralph, uh, Derrick Rose, I think he had an MVP. He didn't have three All NBAs, but he made the All NBA team and I think All Star team that year. He made the MVP. So Gilbert didn't get the MVP, but he's still in a certain class of point guards. So that would at
Right.
least put him top 5 of point guards by the
Yeah.
age of 25. And Derrick Rose started at 20. Gilbert started at 20. Right. So
Right.
if we're talking about Steph, I would side with Gilbert in this sense that he clarified what he said. Career wise, Steph by 25 though, me.
Right.
And I think that's respectable. Steph did go through injuries his first 2 seasons, I think, but remember, Steph did also play alongside or behind Monte Ellis, who was nice in his own right. It's okay to grow. It's okay
Right.
to go through that progression. Kobe came off the bench behind Eddie Jones, even if we already knew that he was better than Eddie Jones, but he wanted to take all the shots and play a one-on-one game, right?
Right.
Verse 5. Jerry West, like, yeah, this dude, so yeah, Gilbert Arenas by the age of 25 was averaging 28, 29 points per game, should have been on the Olympic team, was giving Kobe and them 60 points, was going Glock for Glock, so to speak, with a young LeBron James. That's how great LeBron was, but in those NBA playoffs. So, yes, I believe he was at least a top 5, one of the top point guards by the age of 25 in that era. So I would say I would take his 25 before Steph's 25. Anything after that, though, it's different. But he
Right.
clarified what he said, so I respect it. He didn't disrespect anybody. So people who want to say, oh, he's just trying to always validate, but I'm like, listen, reading
Right.
is fundamental, listening is fundamental. Oh yeah, what do you say? Because I know you want to cook on it. So
I think that I don't think that he's tripping. I think that he has a very valid point. If you look at
yeah.
careers, and we can always do the what ifs with no injuries, but
Hmm.
if we're looking at what it is what it is. There's only certain people that can compare when it comes to that point guard conversation because
Yep.
back in the day, people were coming into the league 22, 23
Hmm.
after playing for 4 years. So I think that there's a certain conversation that you can have. And shout out to Ricky with the fire emoji. Shout out to my boy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, thanks for watching. But I think that the conversation is one of those things that it's you got to pay attention to what was actually said and take your feelings out of the situation because when you look at the numbers, Magic came in and won a finals. Derrick
Hmm.
Rose is the youngest MVP. there's only certain people that can even be put in that conversation of what he was able to do coming in day one as a second round pick to come in and put up the numbers that he was doing. And so I think that the conversation is definitely valid,
Yeah.
and I don't think he's tripping. Next up, we got the players, The Athletic put out
Oh
a
snap!
report of the players poll.
A couple different
And
things on there.
the players voted that it's, according to the media, it's close when it comes to the MVP conversation, but according to the players, it's not close. It's Joel Embiid in a landslide. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
Embiid by a landslide for the MVP.
Yes.
Do I want to be controversial today? Hey, no. I'm gonna say I think he's the winner. I ain't gonna lie though. I'm not sure if I should actually say this though, because I think I placed early in the season a bet on who would win the MVP. I think I placed it on like either Giannis or Jokic. I got to check that. But anyway, but yeah, Embiid is my MVP. Yeah, yeah. I just know I just know I didn't place money on him to win it in the preseason. But yeah, he's the MVP. He also got the matchup win versus Jokic initially, right? And then
Yeah.
he beat Giannis's team in Pfizer form at the end of the season.
Yep.
He beat another team, Embiid, and he's doing it on both ends of the court. Embiid is the MVP, man. Like it just is what it is. Ricky said, "I agree." See,
Yes,
there we
sir.
go.
Yes, sir.
Embiid. I think Ricky has him going to the finals as well. So there you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I agree, man. I think that
Yeah.
I've said it. I've been fighting for 3 years now.
Right.
For Joel to get this award. So I think that is good that the players, because we always talk about what do your peers say? What do you have the respect of your peers? And I think having the respect of his peers, them saying, "Hey, it's not even close," is one thing that's like kind of surprised me to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And I wish we had more time to talk about some of the other things that they said as far as who they voted as most overrated, while also for all these LeBron heads out here, the LeBron stands.
Yeah.
Almost 60% of the players said Mike is still the GOAT. So I don't want to hear none of that. But with the little bit of time we got left, Draymond always in some shit. Excuse my language, but he always in some sugar honey iced tea. Is suspended for game 3. We alluded to it earlier. Should he have been suspended?
No. Too pivotal of a series. You're taking away the joy from the game, but also you got to look at the fact that Sabonis was grabbing his is it Boobrun? But yeah, you got to look at the fact that Sabonis was grabbing his foot. I don't condone him stepping down, but I think
Right.
you know what they said about the ejection. The ejection was warranted, right? But here's the thing: they told you why they suspended him. So while we don't agree with the suspension, at least we know the criteria and the
Right.
foundation in which they chose to suspend him on. They said based off his previous actions, and I believe that the fact that he was playing to the crowd, right, egging them on as he was rejected from the game with Adam Silver in the attendance. Sometimes you got to read the room, right? Be cognizant of reading the room.
Most
And
definitely.
when you and at the end of the day, the fact that at some point when your antics cost your team in a series, then that can be an issue. Because I don't believe Steve Kerr 1 minute, Ralph, and I'll swing it back to you for the sake of time real quick so we can close out. I don't believe Steve Kerr 1 minute when he said that he didn't see the play, nor did he see the replay. And then his coach told him, well, Draymond got ejected, so you're not going to look at your tablet, bro? Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, you saw it, bro. You know it went
Right.
down.
There's no
So
way that you
yeah,
didn't see that.
yeah, he didn't warn it. What do you say, or you want to close out? Or?
I think that he definitely deserved to be suspended. I think that he has a pattern of behavior, and it's like, bro, at some point you're doing this to yourself. I can't even really be mad at the NBA for doing for suspending you. It just is what it is. All about accountability. But make sure you follow all of our socials. Go on Instagram at J.U.K. Sports Show. Follow me on Instagram. All of them socials and the name you see on the bottom of the screen for unbiased basketball analysis at the House of Hoops on Instagram. And we got to get up out of there. Peace.
Peace.